and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran Devlin, and today's session is the UC Partner Trends Update for Cisco Webex, How to Drive Revenues with Gen AI. I'm delighted to be joined by Lorrissa Horton, SVP, GM, and Chief Product Officer at Cisco Collaboration. Lorrissa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Before we explore exactly how partners can drive revenues with Gen AI, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Lorrissa, and your journey with Cisco?
Yeah, so I've been at Cisco now for almost 6 years, 6 years next month, and I've owned a little bit of everything. So from the chat to meetings to calling and now the contact center space, and even working very closely with the hardware teams to really look at how our software and hardware works together. It's been an exciting time since we went through an entire pandemic and obviously a change in how consumers use communication and just completely constantly changing trends, and obviously the competitive landscape evolving very fast. With the AI changes that's happened in the last couple of years, I think we are seeing what I tell my team is this alignment of the stars, where there's a need in the market, the tech is finally ready, and we have vendors who are really excited to go after the opportunity.
Perfect, and I think it's fascinating you come across so many different departments within Cisco. I think it's nicely positioned to discuss what exactly is Cisco's AI proposition in 2024, and how have you guys brought it to market?
So our position stands on two major pillars. The first one, of course, is on large language models and incorporating conversation into our applications, both in understanding as well as being able to generate responses. This is something that obviously ChatGPT brought into the world. We've seen consumers adopt it, and we've seen how we can improve all different personas that are working, from the knowledge worker to the frontline worker, with the use of large language models and specifically a chat-based type experience. The second pillar is where we really differentiate, which is with real-time media models. Our history has been in communications, coming from a networking background, and the things that we really wanted to understand is how is conversations going to change with AI, and everything from an AI codec to ensure that we can generate better, higher quality audio, even in the cases where we have high packet loss and latency issues. Also looking at how is video evolving from an AI standpoint. We've obviously done a ton of work with being able to recognize the person from everything around the person, but we don't stop there. We really try to understand what are they doing, things like gestures. When we go back to audio, we've seen so much change in the environment where people are working, specifically the noise that they cannot control. And we have one of the market leading background noise removal experiences on the market. And so these two pillars work very well and closely together around every experience that we support on the platform, whether that is in a meeting, on a call, even in a contact center, really supporting all the personas, the environments they work in, and the activities that they need to deliver for their customers.
And one of the most impressive showcases at this year's Enterprise Connect, I thought, was Webex presenting how AI Assistant and its AIs are infused across its entire platform, across its entire service, and how organically it can be leveraged by everyday users. I thought that it was incredibly impressive. And I was wondering if you could please go into more detail on how Cisco's AI proposition is infused all across Webex.
So our approach to AI has been a platform approach from the beginning. We tried our best to build as deep in the platform as possible so that every single persona could take advantage. So I'll start with background noise removal. When we built that, it started off in the meetings experience. And really, it took everything from recognizing what are all noises that are not human voice. And even in the case of human voice, which is the human voice that is speaking in this particular conversation versus maybe background human voice. So when we started with that in the platform, we were able to then bring it into meetings, into calling, and now into contact center, which is really exciting. Like you mentioned, being able to weave it into every persona across the ecosystem. But not just that. Once we went down the world of LLMs and really looking at how can we help people create quickly, as well as summarize quickly. We've now worked on quite a few features, both in summarizing a meeting and being able to see exactly what's happening, not just in transcription and translation, which we've had for a while now, but being able to summarize things like what happened while you were gone. We all have now experienced having to step away, answer the door, maybe come back. Now you want to know, well, did I miss anything while I was gone? Specifically you, maybe your name was called. That kind of summarization is built into the platform, and we use the same summarization on phone calls and even in a contact center for things like wrapping up a call and making that overall process, which is typically about 5 minutes, a much more efficient process. Not only that, when we look at how people respond to each other in communication, like sending a chat message, we actually are able to help you rewrite your tone so that you can maybe come across more friendly versus terse if you're in a rush. Similarly, in the contact center space, we want to make sure that we're helping agents come across in a more friendly manner, regardless of the tense of how tense that conversation is. And so being able to do those kinds of rewrite or even autoresponder type scenarios, again, built in to our AI layer, which is used across the board. So every single experience we built really starts at the core of what's the core tech, what's the communication model, what are the environments they have to work in, and who are the different personas that have to use it. We're then able to customize that experience based on the context of which the persona is working in, whether that be the application, whether that be someone that's on the go in a mobile environment, and really then account for all of those different parameters and contexts in the use case themselves.
Thank you for that. That is such a fascinating insight into the very specific use cases that can be applied across the entire Webex ecosystem. But I was wondering if we could maybe zoom out a little now and look at what Gen AI specifically means, almost in a broader cultural perspective. Is at this stage, 18 months on since ChatGPT brought AI somewhat into the public mainstream consciousness, it has developed and evolved so dramatically in such a short length of time. But what does it mean specifically for the channel, would you say? What does Gen AI bring to the channel before we touch on exactly how it can be used to drive revenues?
Yeah, so the description that I've been using, or the analogy I've been using for a while now, is one where creating an essay, right? So when I was in high school, writing an essay, it wasn't uncommon that you had to go to the library, you had to find an Encyclopedia Britannica or of some sort, and that was your source. Then you had to do research to figure out, how do I find the topic? From there, generate an outline for my essay and then write my essay. The thing that wasn't hard to do is find the source, and you knew that it was a valid source because you were in the library. As that evolved, obviously Google and search engines were introduced, and finding content got a lot easier. I put in some keywords, all of a sudden a plethora of content is coming to me, but then I had to figure out which of these pieces of content do I actually want to use, and are they valid sources, before I then created my outline and obviously my essay. Everything from the quality of the source became a new challenge, and even being able to recognize a real source versus not was a challenge. Now, when I look at how my kids are likely going to write essays, they'll probably go into something like ChatGPT and they'll ask for an essay on a specific topic, and out will come an essay. But there's a whole new world of different work that needs to happen. One, are there hallucinations in that essay? Is that actually factual or not? Who did those facts come from? And how do they verify that these are real or not? Next is, how do they still have creative thought or unique perspectives? Because otherwise, every single person in that classroom is going to come up with the exact same essay. Plagiarism was already an issue even in the world of search engines, but in this new world, I think it's still unclear what a plagiarized document looks like, especially as we're still trying to establish and understand policies around content that is used for training for Gen AI. And so there's a ton of new places that are going to be creating new work for us as we leverage these Gen AI capabilities. And so what I've been talking to people about is, it's not about work being completely gone. I think there's new work being created while certain tasks are going to get much easier. So this evolution in my mind is just showing us that there'll always be new things to do and new problems to solve for. In this case, I think security is going to be another challenge that will keep coming up. But we have to be able to evolve with the process changing because of AI coming into the picture.
Absolutely. Though I have been enjoying the memes online of kids in school who have completely forgot to take away the top of the ChatGPT's answer, saying, "I'm just a large language model." But I think eventually kids might become more sophisticated in adopting that. But returning to the topic at hand, I guess the big question, and is the title of today's video, is This is all very exciting in a theoretical perspective, but when it comes to practical terms, how can partners use Gen AI to drive revenues?
Yeah, so I've talked to quite a few partners, especially at Enterprise Connect, as you mentioned. It was a great time to talk to partners about where is their position in both using Gen AI inside their company and getting very comfortable with it, and also understanding how do you govern AI as a whole. I think that's a topic that's coming up time and time again. So I really recommend to partners to establish their practice on how do you leverage AI in a company safely while not slowing down so much to the degree where you're going to be left behind by your competitors. I think that's where partners can really, really help. They have such a broad reach of customers, and every industry is going to adopt slightly differently based on the compliance or the risk profiles that are available in that particular vertical. And so having an expertise around how to do this, I think is so, so important. As a vendor, we will look at trying to keep customers as safe as possible. Obviously, we're going to look at how data is ingested into the entire AI platform, how it's then utilized, and then how it produces outcomes for our customer. That is going to be a generic pipeline. As I look to partners, I ask them, well, what's different in this part of the world, in this industry, for this persona, and how can you help a customer actually cater to their environment, which will have additional capabilities or additional strict requirements that maybe we haven't accounted for yet in a more generic SaaS platform. Not only that, when I look at the training of employees, when I look at the redefining of processes from today to the new world, there's a lot of migration and reprocess definition that will be required, and re-educating as a whole. I think there's so much concern about people losing jobs, and it is going to require all of us to evolve a little, to lean into a growth mindset so we know how to work in this new world, which will be a little faster, which will have things like auto response. But how do we then take advantage of the free time that we have? What's the next phase of strategic advantage that can be created by that free time? I think that's something that people haven't quite figured out. Just like how does every single job in the world evolve now with AI? And this is where I think there's so much room for partners to work closely with our customers to help define that.
Perfect. And obviously, there was the exciting news about the AI upskilling consortium that Cisco led with last week. So it's definitely going to be a massive story in 2024 and beyond. I guess the final question before I let you go, Lorrissa, is on the use of Gen AI for partners to drive revenues. I was wondering if you could please provide some tangible example use cases that you've seen with your partners that have been real success stories.
Yeah, so I think the contact center is a perfect space for partners to look at Gen AI utilization because it's very obvious that every single contact center is going to need to leverage Gen AI. The challenge is when you go into a customer, they, one, have a very fixed budget, and they're trying to figure out how to change out the engine of the airplane while flying the airplane, right? So this is the balance of keeping business running while trying to evolve and innovate. And I think partners are going to be very critical to that. We have a couple of partners that have really worked closely with customers to say, here's what you do today, here's how much it costs. Here's the incremental steps that we can take to leverage more AI while not necessarily introducing a whole new cost. Because the challenge is working within that fixed budget and ensuring that everything continues to operate. And so we've had some partners break that down. And that breakdown looks something like, here's what we should go automate. Here's what a virtual agent can now do in the cases of a surge of call volume. So you don't necessarily need more humans in this surge. You can use automation to do that. Not only that, here's how we continue to look at all the different places we can add AI where it's not necessarily disruptive, but an adjacency. It's an augmentation to how you do things today. And then slowly over time, that evolution will potentially do some replacement, definitely at the very easy basic task level, but it should free up people to then be able to do the more complex things where we know there's longer wait times because there's just fewer people who are able to respond to those more difficult questions. And so being able to chart a entire timeline of here's what steps you do in what order, here's how you validate whether that AI is adding value to you, and then you're ready to also make a business case to your leadership around the next investment in AI and the next transformation. I think very often people, especially the customers I talk to, are very overwhelmed by, I know what I need to go do, but I don't know how to get there. And getting there is a very, very difficult, complex challenge because of all of the different things that they have to take into account, like continuing to operate and staying in compliance while testing very brand new technology, which feels risky. And so that's where I've worked with a couple of partners. I think they've done a great job really leaning into understanding the challenges in that environment and being able to handhold the customer on that journey.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a really encouraging and optimistic note on which to end today's session. So thank you, Lorrissa, for being here today.
Thank you for having me again.
And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran, Devlin, UBC Today. Thanks for watching.